All right, let's do the Friday mailbag. You can email info@davidpakman.com, kicking off 2023. It's a very full mailbag. You also sometimes will see a YouTube comment here or there, or a Facebook message that we get, or whatever the case may be. It's a mix of commentary, and we are going to start with a message from Bruce delivered via the Facebook, where Bruce says, "You a real punk clown. You make average American sick. Lying, that's not American, that's American sick. Lying good liberal girl, whatever your pronoun is, F you." And then after being told I'm unable to respond to comments individually, Bruce writes back, "Not sure why this POS lying liberal clown Dave Pakman garbage popped up on my Facebook, but can guarantee I can't stand feckless lying liberal cowards like him. Relay the message to Dave. He speaks for maybe 29% of Arizona at most. Effing punk clown." That's extremely specific. I speak for 29% of Arizona. I didn't claim to speak for any of Arizona, but apparently this guy says it's conceivable that I speak for 29% of Arizona. So this is a very angry person who seems totally disconnected from the reality in his state, which is more people voted for Katie Hobbs. Katie Hobbs defeated Kari Lake. Katie Hobbs is now, thankfully, the governor of Arizona. There aren't two governors. The governor's not Kari Lake. Kari Lake's not the governor-elect. Kari Lake is not going to use a lawsuit to become the governor. Katie Hobbs won. This guy doesn't like it. Reality can be tough. Kevin wrote in, and this one is interesting. "I bet you're like 5'7", 135 pounds, running your, the F word for a gay person, liberal mouth, like you're intimidating or something." It's always the unathletic looking pencil neck nerds like you who talk S like you're intimidating. Y-O-U-R, the wrong you're. Like you're intimidating. You see the name and face. Remember it, you 5'7" F word for a gay person. Ha. That is unacceptable, Kevin. I am 5'8", 150. Please, sir, please do not undersell me by an inch. This is a guy where clearly he's lost the importance of inches. That you can tell. Yeah, I mean, obviously we know the best criticism of someone's political views is their height or their weight. Very, very nicely done. All right, let's get into some more serious stuff. Tom wrote in about alternatives to prison for Trump, about a hypothetical Trump trial. What happens? Can you even really send Trump to prison? And Tom writes, "David, I predict that Trump will have to enter a plea deal to avoid a jury trial after an indictment is handed down. He won't be able to testify under oath, of course, and some of the evidence against him is certain to bring a conviction. A lot of the evidence Trump wouldn't want disclosed in open court. So here's what I think will happen. Trump will enter an Alford plea, allowing him to plead guilty without making specific admissions. In allowing this type of plea, the prosecution will need certain things. First, they'll need for Trump to return the missing documents he stole. Without this action, there should be no deal. Then they should require him to withdraw his candidacy and, as a condition, never seek elected office again, which would prohibit him from fundraising again. Lastly, he'll be required to serve in-house detention for a period of time to be determined. That period of time will prohibit him from mass communicating, fundraising, and he'll be similarly enjoined from most social activities like most prisoners. This setup will allow the Secret Service to continue to protect him while serving his sentence at Mar-a-Lago. It's not going to be the perfect answer, writes Tom, but the unusual circumstances preclude perfection. And while I'd prefer that Trump just go to trial, be convicted, and sent to prison, my sense is that it's just not likely to happen. Feel free to use this idea for the purpose of discussing likely outcome scenarios. Tom, it's a very interesting suggestion. I've not checked with lawyers about its viability, but at the surface level, it seems completely plausible. I think it is important, as my hair does something very, very weird. I think it is important that we take it step by step. The first step is simply, is there going to be an indictment? Increasingly, the expectation is yes. Let's get to that first step before we go further. All right, let's now talk about incels. Early last week, I did a commentary about incels, and the response was overwhelming. We heard from incels. We heard from anti-incels. We heard from all sorts of people. So let's go through a few of the messages that I received. Daniel wrote in and said, in regards to how to help incels, I would propose a more European approach to the problem. Many countries in Europe have legal brothels. The sex industry does not have nearly the negative stigma in these countries as in the US. I don't suggest forcing anyone to work in prostitution, but I do suggest allowing people to make the choice of working in a legalized, regulated, and guarded industry. Daniel writes, I am a former incel. I have had the opportunity to work in Germany and have used my per diem on several occasions for recreation in the Reeperbahn brothels. I found it was possible to build rapport with some of these women. When I came back to the US, I continued to pay for female companionship and was able to build rapport with many of these women. Gradually, I was able to move to more normal ways of meeting, interacting, and building relationships with women. I've not been with a prostitute in over a decade, but I'm not embarrassed that I found it to be therapeutic while I was in need of help. Sexual desire is a natural human characteristic. People who are socially challenged should not be criminalized for seeking to fill this void. Even though it's a business transaction, feeling a bit of intimate contact and not being made to feel like a Frankenstein monster is a boost to the self-esteem. Brothels should be readily available to those in need, writes Daniel. Very interesting perspective that many people who emailed shared. Here's another message from Scott about incels, where he says, David, in your recent segment regarding incels, you advocated for increased mental health funding and support for these individuals, which I think would definitely be at the base of a multi-pronged effort that would be needed to address this issue. However, my feeling is that encouraging these people to seek one another out so they may find help or support is sort of what got us in here in the first place. Years ago, before social media and online forums, you never heard about incels. Now that people can access social media, have been able to locate other incels, I feel they get stuck in echo chambers that help to normalize and rationalize their feelings, and that it's okay to hate women or men or whoever it is they feel rejected by, that it's okay to have thoughts about committing violence against perceived enemies. It reminds me very much of the echo chambers many right-wing extremists get caught up in that normalize and encourage violence. All this to say, I feel like the approach with incels should be a little more like deprogramming people lured into cults and discouraging use of social media to help with this problem. What better way for people to become sexually active than to get off their devices and actually interact in the flesh with others in the real world? So here's an idea that says, not more online stuff. That doesn't seem good. Nick wrote in and also is thinking legal prostitution would help, saying, David, I watched your segment. I believe federally legalizing prostitution would really help this issue. The reality is that not everyone is going to be able to find a partner. Giving those people the option to pay for sex would really benefit their mental health by giving them an outlet for their sexual frustration. It's basically just providing a service to solve a problem, just like anything else. If not for stigma surrounding prostitution in America, I believe incels would almost cease to exist. What are your thoughts? Some certainly would. I think for many of them, the anxiety of even going to a sex worker would prevent them from doing it. I don't know. I think there's something to this idea, but I think we need to explore it probably a little more deeply. Rich wrote in and says, thank you from an incel. David, sir, I commend and thank you for your segment on incels. I am an incel. I joined an emotional support group on Facebook. After some time, I expressed my loneliness and frustration and desire to improve my experience with dating. I got absolutely torn apart by people accusing me of all kinds of nasty things. Not one person commiserated or responded with empathy. For example, women don't owe you sex. No kidding. I'm not saying they should fall at my feet. I'm saying I want to improve myself so that I can have some success with dating. It was especially frustrating because it was an emotional support group. I tried bringing attention to this failure for a couple of days until the moderators got involved, accusing me of the very same things and shaving me. I gave up, I left, I resent them to this day. And the one thing I wanted to say to them is something like, this is exactly the kind of response that causes people like me to get radicalized. I'm not radicalized, says Rich. I never will be, but I am still very much an incel, and the stigma surrounding this is lonely and alienating. I just straight up don't know what to do about it. All I can say is I love to see people like you cover this with compassion and understanding, and with differentiation between the radicalized incels and the regular, everyday schmucks like me. Much love, says Rich. Man, this is a complicated issue. That is for sure. And I really, really, really appreciate all of the feedback about that segment. We're going to cover it again. Lastly, Tweeter wrote in and said, if Trump and his henchmen don't get put away, the world will think we are weak. People got hurt and the Capitol. Those charges should count too. This is an argument, which is if there are no consequences to any of the organizers of the riots, what does it say about the people thinking about planning something similar? I think that's a fair question to ask. info@davidpakman.com. If you have something to say, we have a fantastic bonus show for you today. Remember, don't allow yourself to be blocked from the bonus show. Get the bonus show by signing up at joinpakman.com. And remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's this sort of bystander effect where people watch our videos and they go, oh, he's got 1.5 million subscribers. I'm sure other people will subscribe to get him to 2 million. No. You can be that person. Don't fall prey to the bystander effect. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, youtube.com/The David Pakman Show, and we'll be at 2 million before you know it. See you on the bonus show.